Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. So I am super excited to be back in my car filming a wrap-up video. I am in the parking lot of my apartment complex. I have not gone anywhere, but it just feels good to be in a motor vehicle again, especially my car, which is like my baby place that I love to film. It makes me feel at home, and I feel like I need to feel at home since I feel like I've been away from YouTube for quite a while. I have not filmed, edited, uploaded anything in the past week/2 weeks, week and a half, I don't know. So it's good to be back in my car filming this wrap-up for you guys. I love wrap-ups. I love sharing all the books that I read this month, and I feel like I read a fair amount of books that I have not talked to you guys about this month. So I'm excited to kind of give you more of a summary on those and like not talk about the books that I already talked about in other videos. So anyway, I'm first going to kind of like briefly tell you guys the books that I read for other videos, kind of direct you to those if you want to see like more in-depth reviews on things, and then we can talk about the books that we haven't talked about yet. It's gonna be a good time. Okay, so the first book that I read this month was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this book 2 stars. I have a lot of in-depth spoilery thoughts for my reading vlog for that whole experience. It wasn't great and it was kind of disappointing. I'd been really anticipating an adult read from Sarah J. Maas for a while. I was like, okay, give us more sexy, and she didn't do that. So moving on. I also read 10 books starting with the letter S for my Choose Your Own Adventure reading vlog. I ended up reading Suddenly You by Lisa Kleypas, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, Saga by a couple of different authors who I can't think of the names of. It's fine. But Sleepless, also can't remember the author. I should probably have written this down on my notes, to be honest. I also read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman, Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and Solitaire by Alice Oseman. I really enjoyed that experience, kind of. The filming experience of that video was like not my favorite, but that was kind of on me and trying to read 10 books in 5 days, but I really enjoyed that vlog. I really liked the way it turned out, so I would love if you guys would go and watch that if you haven't already, and if you want to hear any of my thoughts on these books, go check it out. There were some surprising findings. I apparently like science fiction now. So the next video that I did this month was the taste test for Emma books. This was probably my favorite video that I did this month. It was just really fun. I just love my taste tests. They're definitely my favorite videos that I do on my channel. I read Heretics Anonymous, The Afterlife of Holly Chase, Renegades, Every Last Word, and Daisy Jones and the Six. And I feel like my findings for this video were also interesting. I ended up disliking books I thought I would like and vice versa, so again, go check that out. I will leave a link in the description for you guys, and then we can move into the books that I haven't really talked about on my channel yet this month. Okay, there's kind of a lot of them. Not a lot, I think there's like 5 or 6, but it's enough to where I have a lot of things to say. So the first book that I read, I did kind of briefly talk about it in my like reactionary vlog I did. It was like the second day of the reading rush. It was Driven by Kay Bromberg. Okay, this is my first 1-star book of the year, I'm pretty sure, and if it isn't, it's definitely the worst book that I've read this year. I like to think that there is no such thing as objectivity when it comes to enjoyment of books. However, I genuinely do not understand how people enjoy this book. The heroine was sincerely insufferable from day one, and the hero was a creep. And I feel like that word is thrown around often when it comes to books like 50 Shades and other books where there's kind of like a domineering alpha type hero. This guy, it's like he didn't even really have the money to make it excusable, and I'm not saying that like money excuses everything, but at least with Christian Grey there's sort of an allure there, you know. It's like, oh my god, this sexy billionaire is like stalking me. This, it's like he didn't really stalk her so much as like leer at her, make sexual innuendo from day one. It was just gross. I just really didn't like the relationship. I also felt like any sort of semblance of plot was just there to further the characters' agendas and make them look morally acceptable and morally interesting, which I just don't love. Also, I'm realizing I'm very washed out. Should we adjust this? Are we gonna make me look less washed out? Do you guys like that better? I don't. I'm just gonna continue to look like I'm in heaven. I hope you guys are okay with it. As I was saying, no. And on top of that, the hero is like a race car driver, and I don't care if it's like Formula 1 or something like classy and like European. If you tell me he's a race car driver, like I'm gonna think NASCAR, and it's not sexy. Also, the movie adaptation was exactly like the book, which I guess is great, but also the book sucked, so I don't know. More in-depth thoughts in that vlog. I was very snarky. I don't know what kind of attitude or like mood I was in when I filmed that, but I'm actually really proud of that video. I know some people were like, why do you do rant reviews? You know what? Because I fucking want to sometimes. If you want to go and listen to me rant about a really bad book and movie, go do that. The next book that I read this month was so polar opposite from Driven. I gave this book 5 stars, and it's definitely, I think, one of my favorite thrillers that I've read. of this year, definitely, if not of all time, and it is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This was so good. It was just so over the top, I guess you could say, like in the best possible way. It really went there, and I feel like I'm so often kind of bitching about twists and thrillers being thrown in haphazardly, too often, too unbelievably, and while that kind of was the case in this book, it really worked because the book kind of leaned into the campiness and like the over the topness of the tropes and the things that it was trying to implement. So let me tell you what the book's about. The book is about a guy named Ted Severson, and he is talking to a woman at a bar. That's kind of how the story opens. He's telling this woman about his wife's infidelity, about the builder, I guess like the home builder or like renovator that his wife is cheating with, and he makes this remark that, you know, he might actually want to kill her, like, you know, that's kind of what he wants to do, and it's sort of offhanded, and he doesn't really necessarily mean it, but the woman that he is sitting next to, her name is Lily, she says, "Oh, I totally understand that. Sometimes, you know, those kinds of people are the kind worth killing," and they kind of embark on this journey to seek revenge on the people in their lives that have wronged them. So it's an interesting, wild ride. I feel like that synopsis sort of doesn't really tell you all that there is to know about the story, but I kind of want you guys to go in blind if you decide to pick this book up if you haven't already. I think it came out in like 2016 or something, so it's not like a new thriller, but oh my god, it was so good. I also like the way that the narration was handled and just the points of view. I thought Ted and Lily both were pretty fascinating characters, especially Lily. I loved getting her flashbacks and just kind of getting into her mind and sympathizing with her. I'm also going to put a spoiler warning right here so I can kind of really tell you guys what I loved about this book. I'm sure a lot of you guys have read this. When I got on Goodreads, it seemed like all of my friends had read it. I fucking loved that Ted dies like 30-40% into the book and the narration is taken over by Lily. I am someone who really gets irritated when books switch narrators, or not even switch narrators, but we think we're hearing from one person, but it's like a case of mistaken identity. That shit pisses me off. This was clever, and I've never seen it done before, and maybe that's just like me not having read that many thrillers, but the way that this one was handled, the fact that Ted dies and we find out that Ted's not really the narrator, it's actually going to be Lily, and like Lily's story is more important, I was like, fucking brilliant. Like, this is amazing. And on top of that, just her desire to kill people was amazing, and it felt very rational, and it felt like a lot of people had wronged her, and I was like, you know what, you go girl, you just kill them all. I don't know, I loved it. I thought it was so good. Definitely one of the best thrillers I've read. I don't know. It just put a smile on my face listening to this audiobook, and it probably shouldn't have, but it did. There's just something about an unhinged woman that really just fucking does it for me. So anyway, 5 stars. Really highly recommend it. Go check it out if you've not already. Okay, the next book that I read, if we want to call it that, was The Perfect Gift by Jessa Kane. And the gift, it's a hymen. So for a little background, Jessa Kane is the writer and purveyor of fine smut. She basically crafts these like 50 to 100 page stories of really taboo, usually like some sort of age gap, daddy kink, whatever, sort of like smutty tales. I tend to really enjoy them. I'm not really that big into like short form smut. I never really rate them because I don't feel like it's fair to rate them, seeing as like, it's just hard to compare this sort of thing to like real quality literature. I'm not quite sure. Whatever. I'm gonna tell you guys kind of what this book's about, what I liked, etc. So this book is about a girl named Nova who lives on this kind of like not deserted island, but there's very few inhabitants except for 2 really evil bitchy sisters who are trying to sell Nova to the highest bidder and sell off her virginity, and then hopefully eventually trap a billionaire because they're hoping that Nova will get impregnated. So the billionaire, what's his name? I don't even think that I have it written down. I don't even know if we get his name. I mean, to be honest, I just kind of skimmed this for the sexy parts. He's a hedge fund billionaire. He gets trapped by Nova, kind of. Nova ends up falling for him. He falls for her, and then they sort of like spite the sisters. That's kind of the whole point of the book. And there's like, you know, raunchy good times that happen. He's just so tempted by this virginal flesh. So was it profound? Was it moving? Was it life-changing? Absolutely not. Was this my favorite book by Jessa Kane? Also no. But I do think she does a good job at what she's intending to do. I think she has the perfect balance of plot and sexy times. Like, the plot is nothing groundbreaking, it's nothing super believable, but it does work to kind of set up the sex scenes that are going to ensue, and she doesn't try too hard to make you really care about the characters, if that makes sense. I just feel like a lot of the times when you're reading really short smut, I think the authors are trying to do a little too much with the character relationships. I'm like, I'm here to hear about them boning. So to do anything really like grandiose with the plot it's just overkill, and we don't need it. So Jessa Kane knows what the fuck she's doing, and if you want something raunchy, taboo, sexy, I kind of recommend her books, although I don't recommend the one where this guy is essentially wearing a loincloth that he like repeatedly comes in. Moving right along, I read Wicked and the Wallflower next by Sarah McLean. I'm sorry, this is all over the place. I have notes for this, but I'm also just sort of kind of winging it because it feels good, it feels right, I feel at home in my car. This is my first book by her. It's a historical romance. I gave this book 4 stars. It was just really refreshing, and I don't think that I've ever read a historical romance like this before. So this is the first book in the Bare Knuckle Bastards trilogy, and it is about these 3 brothers who are all bastard children of this duke in England. He is a really sadistic asshole, and after these kids reach a certain age, he kind of like takes them all in, and they have to sort of like compete for the dukedom. So only one guy wins, and the other 2 are like the bastards. This first book is about one of the bastards who didn't win, and it is about him falling for this lady of society. Him and his like other bastard brother who are not dukes, they sort of like have this sort of underground enterprise. They're both just like, I don't know, rough and tumble guys. Think like Peaky Blinders type dudes, but before Peaky Blinders existed, because this is before the 1920s. Anyway, at least, is Peaky Blinders 20s? Let's not. I'm a history major, fuck, I should know these things. Our bastard in this book falls for a lady named Felicity Faircloth, and I just really like the way that this story was set up. I liked the character dynamics. I feel like Sarah McLean does something a little bit different with the way that she writes her historicals from the ones that I've read recently. I feel like the modern historicals, if that makes sense, like historicals written in the past 5 years or so, really lean heavily rom-com, very like modernized historical, which is awesome, and I really do appreciate that. I like the feminism that's thrown in there, and that's definitely present in this book, but there's not as much of a rom-com element. It's slightly more serious. There's definitely that banter there, but I like that the character dynamics, they're just like more what I like to read about, right? I think I did a Goodreads update when I was reading this book and said something to the effect of, this reminds me of J.R. Ward's writing, and what I meant by that is that I feel like the character dynamics are very J.R. Ward-like, which I don't know, I really like that. You feel like you're just rooting for these characters, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's how it is for all romance, I suppose. Specifically this book, I wanted these characters to get together. I also love the damaged hero thing. It really fucking works for me. Like, give me a brawny dude who, like, is taking care of shit, you know, whatever, but also he's, like, super emotionally damaged, but, like, he treats her good, but, like, he's emotionally damaged, needs to work on it. I just love that shit. So, anyway, love that book. I would highly recommend it. I'm excited to read more books in this series. I also don't know if I did, like, the best job of describing this book, but there is a truck blasting music with his windows rolled down, smoking some sort of product behind us, so I'm trying to go quick. The next book that I read this month was Ruthless Night by A. Jade, or Ashley Jade. This was a book that you guys told me that I needed to read after I read the first book in my same name book video. The first book in this series is called Cruel Prince, which I compared to The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Okay, so this one, everybody just said was going to be so much better, and I had to read the sequel, and it's like I agree that it's better, but I also really fucking disagree that it's better. Sort of contradictory, let me explain. Okay, so this story is about our hero in the last book's younger brother, Cole. Cole was a twin, but Cole's twin committed suicide when they were both in middle school, and Cole is kind of dealing with the emotional repercussions of that in high school. I think he is a senior, and his love interest is also a senior in high school. His love interest, Sawyer, is dealing with her own shit because she is trying to get into the college of her dreams, and she's also dealing with kind of like ruthless teasing, not even teasing, but her mom gives her shit for the fact that she is in a larger body, she's curvy. You can tell that she really wants to be self-accepting, but it's really hard when people are constantly bringing you down. All the people at school are telling you you're, you know, too big, and then your mom on top of that is telling you that you're too big. So she's dealing with that, Cole's dealing with his own shit, but they're also kind of dealing with the fact that they're both really attracted to each other. Cole understands that there's a societal expectation on him to like date the pretty cheerleader, and Sawyer kind of feels insecure in her body, so the beginning of their relationship is super interesting, weird, I don't know, they kind of fake date, and things kind of develop from there. I'm being kind of vague. Okay, let me talk about what I liked first. I really enjoyed the fact that the real world issues were handled very well in this book, and I think that was also the case in the first book, to be honest. I like the fact that we're getting exploration of grief and kind of responsibility of grief. I feel like Cole feels responsible for the fact that his brother killed himself, and so we do definitely get those heavy topics handled, and I feel like it's in a good way eventually. And then I also really liked the way that Sawyer's struggles with her body image were handled. I cannot speak to the representation, so I wouldn't recommend this book to people that are looking for necessarily like great plus-sized representation, but in my opinion, I thought it was well handled. The fact that, you know, Sawyer does end up kind of getting addicted, I guess you could say, to Adderall for a little bit to help her lose weight, curb her appetite, and to kind of study so she can get into college. It's handled very well, and her recovery, I think, is also handled really well in the book. I like that detail was included, because this is stuff that really happens to people. I mean, I knew plenty of girls in college and in high school who, you know, took Adderall to curb their appetite, so I thought it was refreshing to have some sort of like real life issues in otherwise really cheesy new adult, but there was a lot that I didn't appreciate. The biggest thing I would say is the fact that Cole really deals with his anger and his grief in really, really unhealthy ways, and I guess he eventually kind of stopped some of these behaviors, but he got in one too many physical fights for my personal liking, and I think a lot of that comes down to miscommunication with Sawyer. He was unwilling to kind of share his feelings and share his emotions and jealousy with her, and instead he would just try to like beat up anyone that was in sight that had nothing to do with Sawyer. Like they didn't, the person in question like didn't even have to hit on Sawyer, and yet Cole would go and try to beat these people up, and it got old very quickly. I was like, can you guys just fucking talk to each other? That was really my biggest issue, is the amount of violence in the story. And then I think the other thing that kind of irritated me and irked me is the fact that this book was too fucking long. There's this fake dating element in the beginning of the book that I thought would carry on kind of throughout the story, but it kind of stops in the first 200 pages, and then the next 300 pages are just this kind of like revolving cycle of Sawyer and Cole beating people up, and Sawyer falling deeper and deeper into her drug addiction, I guess you could say. So it's not that those things are not important, I just kind of wish that it had been taken back and made like 300 pages, because I think the story would have been equally as impactful in 350 pages, and I think I might have bumped it up a star, because then there would be like less time for him to like beat people up, and I think I would have liked it more if it had just happened like once. Anyway, I would be interested to read more from this author in the future. I probably will read the third book because I'm kind of invested in the story. I want to know what happens to the youngest sister of the family, like who she ends up with, but I don't know. I definitely don't agree with the fact that this book is just so much better than the first one, but again, I kind of like the real world issues. Like, thank you, Stupid Noodle, for like trying it, I guess. Like, thanks for trying something new. And then the last book, I really am looking at my notes, and I didn't have that many for this book, but I have a lot of thoughts and feelings because this is another book that I absolutely adored this month, and it is Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase, and I give this book 5 stars. This is another historical romance. This one was written in 1995, which was 24 years ago. 25 years, honestly, 25 years ago almost, damn. I know this because I'm 25, almost 26, and I was born in 94. I don't need to talk about my age. Let's talk about this book. So I started this book on audio. It was available from Audible Escapes, which, if you didn't know, it's kind of like a subscription service via Audible, but for smutty audiobooks, and there's like no limit on how many you can borrow each month. Super awesome. Would recommend if you like smutty audiobooks. This was available, and I was kind of listening to it passively as I was doing other things. To be honest, near the end of the month, I was getting kind of anxious and just wasn't really in the mood to read, but I instantly sort of fell in love with this book. I was like passively listening, and then something happened, and I was like, no, this shit's really good. Let me tune in. So this book is about our two main characters. I honestly don't remember the hero's name because she just calls him the devil, or like Beelzebub? I don't know how the fuck you say that. You know what I'm talking about. Essentially the devil. But I do know that our heroine's name is Jessica. The story, I don't even really know how to describe it. I think maybe because of the time that it was written or whatever, it just feels very different from all of the historical romances that I've read recently or like kind of ever. And it still kind of holds up today. There's not a whole lot of, in my opinion, questionable content in this book. So our story opens up when our heroine is in France and she realizes her brother is kind of in leagues with a rake. And I feel like that kind of is a setup for a lot of books, but bear with me. So she is dealing with the fact that her idiot brother is hanging out with a rake, spending all of his money. He's kind of like not doing well financially, and she's like, I need to remedy this situation. I'm smart fiscally, like I can get this under control. Maybe I can find myself a husband too. So in her quest, she meets this, notorious rake whose father died, I think when he was like not a young boy, but like in his teen years, and he is just emotionally damaged as fuck, which, you know how I love an emotionally damaged man. Anyway, he's dealing with the loss of his father, which is making him, very rakish. Basically, he's doing a lot of imbibing and also fucking random women, right? And Jessica's like, yeah, I don't want my brother to be in leagues with you, and she sort of like falls for this guy at the same time. So they get into this sort of like marriage of convenience situation after some like gunplay is involved. And the story is really about opening up emotionally to your partner and sort of figuring out the other person's love language, if that makes sense. I am not selling this book well. I'm really not selling it well. I don't know. I think the biggest thing for me was really the banter. I fucking love the banter in this book. I thought it was top-notch, excellent. I literally laughed multiple times. I also did this like stupid cheesy grin a lot. If I do a cheesy grin when listening to an audio, there's a high fucking chance it's gonna be a 5-star read for me because I'm not impressed easily. And this book, I don't know, man, it was so good. I feel like the premise of the book really was not that groundbreaking, and there's like a twist that happens that might piss people off, but a lot of the stuff that happened, I don't know, man, the banter really just overcomes everything. So Anyway, I'm probably getting like high off of the fumes from my car, and I don't know, I'm also just sort of freaked out by the fact that there's like a truck parked behind me and he is literally just smoking out the window. But that's literally all that I read this month. I think it was like 22 or 23 books. I'm pretty proud of that, I have to say. I don't think I like remarked on how I felt about this reading month. I definitely read the most during like the first 2 weeks of the month, and then I sort of like trickled and only read like 4 or 5 things. But I'm ready to like really hop into May with some really good content, do a lot of reading for you guys. I don't know what my content's gonna look like. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing like very strict secret TBRs like I normally do, or if I'm just gonna do like casual reading vlogs, but expect a lot from me. I feel like I've been not loving being like far from YouTube, you know? I thought like a break was what I needed because I'd never taken a break from YouTube before, ever. But that's, no, never again, dude. I fucking love YouTube. I love making videos. It keeps me on schedule. It keeps me feeling good. I'm just like ready to get back to it. Got some stuff coming. I also have some like, I don't know, sit down videos that I think I'm gonna do. I want to do a video this month on like the tropes that I hate in books, and you guys can kind of recommend me books based on those tropes and I'll read them. I also think I'm gonna do like a makeup, hair, skincare routine thing. I don't know, I've got stuff planned. I just kind of wanted to like briefly tell you guys that. I did actually, you know what, now that I'm remembering, last month I think I did something like this, kind of telling you guys what to expect. The one secret TBR I know that I'm doing, it's not even secret because I'm about to tell you what it is. I am doing a taste test for Natasha from My Reading is Odd. I'm so fucking thrilled to do this video. I love Natasha, I love her content, and I don't know, I'm sort of in a horror mood. I never thought I'd be a horror ass bitch, but like here we are. So that's, oh my god, the truck's leaving. The truck's leaving. But anyway, that's it for me, I guess. I don't know, I'm just chatting a lot because it feels good to be back at it again. I hope you guys are having a really good month. I was not doing great for a while there. I don't know, quarantine's been up and down, you know? Sometimes you have good weeks, sometimes you have bad weeks, but I'm ready to like get on an upward trajectory and feel good again. This past week has been such a blessing, and I'm just excited to kind of manifest that like energy. That sounds so cheesy, but just, you know, put that energy, those good vibes into my channel for this next coming month, and hopefully I can entertain you guys, kind of keep your mind off the situation, and hopefully by the end of the month or so, you know, we'll be back to kind of normal. I don't know how things are gonna go, but I love you guys so much. Thanks for watching this wrap up. I've got good things coming, and until next time.